So we're gonna once again go ahead with, does this make sense? I'm actually not quite sure. I know, but we're gonna go ahead with Homo Deus or Homo Deus, however you actually pronounce it. I really gotta have to check things up, whether I'm pronouncing it in this way, if it is right that way, and that shit, because I don't do that, and I should. So we're gonna see after the intro, as always. Anyway, and there's no sound, but I'm just gonna talk through because at least there's then something, and I don't have to cut it out, which is something good then. But yeah, I really am looking forward to this thing because I am looking forward to seeing that, whether there's gonna be something amazing, whether it is like whether it is like just pretty cool. And by the way, with that being said, hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast, and I'm pretty happy to be here. And by the way, yesterday I've checked out, and I actually gotta have to use this one because of reasons. Yesterday I've checked out some older videos of mine, and one in particular that is performing really well at the time, even though I just don't really understand it, which is, I think, the 5 best book summary sites of 2019, and I think I kind of have to do another one of those because this version, the old version, the 2019 version, is so shit. And also all the other videos that I've been recording in 2019, I guess. First of all, my English was shit and completely different than it is at this point in time. And so I've fortunately, been able to progress quite a bit in that space. And also the quote-unquote entertainment factor, like me not talking so monotonously and just really uninterestingly and shit like that. Yeah, and also just really silent and things. So it's an overall bad experience, to somehow be honest. But this is not what the episode is all about. I shouldn't talk about so much shit always, because it's about part 1 apparently, which is Homo sapiens conquers the world. Altogether, about 200,000 wild wolves still roam the earth, but there are more than 400 million domesticated dogs. The world contains 40,000 lions compared to 600 million house cats, 900,000 African buffalo versus 1.5 billion domesticated cows, and 50 million penguins and 20 billion chickens. Can you really indeed kind of compare chickens to penguins? I'm not quite sure about that. Since 1970, despite growing ecological awareness, wildlife populations have halved, not that they were prospering in 1970. At present, more than 90% of the large animals of the world, i.e. those weighing more than a few pounds, well, this is actually not that of a good way to categorize them, are either humans or domesticated animals. Yes, a big asteroid will probably hit our planet sometime in the next 100 million years, but it is very unlikely to happen next Tuesday. Instead of fearing asteroids, we should fear ourselves. Yes, indeed. Really, indeed. Also just according to the numbers that we have seen in the past few weeks, I think, let's put it like that, about, not terrorists, because this is not the problem. It's about fucking crime, which is doing way more harm than terrorists, even though, like, it is both crime in the end, but you know what I mean. And I know that you know what I mean. So yeah, it's really indeed, let's just focus on ourselves and not just some dumb shit. The expulsion from Eden or Eden bears a striking resemblance to the agricultural revolution. Instead of following Adam to keep gathering wild fruits, an angry God condemns him to eat bread by the sweat of your brow. It might be no coincidence that biblical animals spoke with humans only in the pre-agricultural era of Eden. In most Semitic languages, Eve means snake or even female snake. The name of our ancestral biblical mother hides an archaic animist myth according to which snakes are not our enemies but our ancestors. Is this like a real thing? I'm not sure. In fact, modern Westerners too think that they have evolved from reptiles. The brain of each and every one of us is built around a reptile core, and the structure of our bodies is essentially that of modified reptiles. And I gotta have to say, yes, we're having the lizard brain, I think, aka the amygdala, if I'm not quite wrong there, if I remember this correctly. Yeah, I don't know how right that is to say, okay, we are animals or just reptiles, therefore, just because we're having a part of them in our fucking head. Yeah, even though I think it is just called like this because it is our animal instinct, in terms of all these things that we're just doing without thinking about them or just doing them consciously, which I'm not quite sure if heartbeat also counts to that, or is also part of the amygdala, or the things that the amygdala is working on or just doing, basically. Well, anyway. Why do modern humans love sweets so much? Not because in the early 21st century we must gorge on ice cream and chocolate in order to survive. Rather, it is because when our Stone Age ancestors came across sweet fruit or honey, the most sensible thing to do was to eat as much of it as quickly as possible. Yes, because there wasn't that much of it, and we just didn't want to lose out on it. And it makes sense. And yeah, I mean, this is, by the way, also one of the reasons why I believe that fasting is not bad. Still people think, I guess, that that fasting is bad, and you should eat breakfast, and you should eat lunch, and you should eat in the evening as well, once again. So you should have 3 meals a day and bullshit like that to properly function. But I completely think that it might even be the opposite. Like I think I have had a look at studies because I wanted to validate that. I don't really know if I was able to find something. I guess actually no. But the thing is, back in the days, we weren't able to eat something all the time as well, and we were still able to fucking survive for quite some time. People, of course, are gonna say, okay, they died aged 40 or some shit. Yes, maybe, could be the case. I don't actually know. I don't have the data, but it could definitely be the case. Due to diseases, I'm not quite sure. Due to being fucking ripped off by a reptile or some big ass saber-toothed tiger thing, yeah, probably. Maybe, it's I think, I don't know if it is more likely, but I think either in Sapiens or in 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, he was also talking about, what was I talking about? Right, our ability to withstand diseases and that it declined and all those things. So yeah, so I'm not quite sure about that. Actually, I have to look that up because it is something extremely interesting to me. Why do young men drive recklessly, get involved in violent arguments, and hack confidential internet sites? Because they are following ancient genetic decrees that might be useless and even counterproductive today, but that made a good evolutionary sense 70,000 years ago, which is actually the case for a lot of things. A young hunter who risks his life chasing a mammoth outshone all his competitors and won the hand of the local beauty, and we are now stuck with his macho genes. Yes, because it worked. It fucking worked. Back in the days, it's the same thing as fear. Back in the days, fear was something that's incredibly important, or was incredibly important, because without fear, we would have all died. Fear of heights, we would have all just done some dumb shit and then died if there was no fear. But at this point in time, it is, at least often likely that we don't need fear. At least not as much as we needed it back in the days. So at this point in time, it seems to be just a pretty fucked up thing and something that's quite unnecessary. Not always, of course. If you're climbing and stuff like that, then it's probably also a good thing to have. And also just other extreme sports, I think. And just, in different areas of life, it's just probably going to be something pretty important and of value. But you know what I mean. Whereas the agricultural revolution gave rise to theist religions, the scientific revolution gave birth to humanist religions in which humans replaced gods. While theists worship theos, Greek for God, humanists worship humans. The founding idea of humanist religions such as liberalism, communism, and Nazism is what Homo sapiens has some unique and sacred essence that is the source of all meaning and authority in the universe. Everything that happened in the cosmos is judged to be good or bad according to its impact on Homo sapiens. Yes, indeed, like everything is structured around us at this point in time. Current orthodoxy holds that consciousness is created by electrochemical reaction in the brain, and that mental experiences fulfill some essential data processing function. However, nobody has any idea how a congeries of biochemical reactions and electrical currents in the brain creates the subjective experience of pain, anger, or love. Perhaps we will have a solid explanation in 10 or 50 years, but as of 2016, we have no such explanation, and we had better be clear about that. Yes, we shouldn't be like, whatnot. We shouldn't, maybe we shouldn't also be that sure of the data that we're having and the things that we're able to say at this point in time, because it might not be right. It might just be completely wrong. Who knows? You know, there's a lot of things that we just found or find to not be true all of a sudden because of whatever, because of experiences and or experiments. The analogy of consciousness to other complex processes such as traffic jams and economic crisis is flawed. What creates a traffic jam? I can't talk today. What creates a traffic jam? If you follow a single car, you will never understand it. The jam results from the interactions among many cars. Car A influences the movement of car B, which blocks the path of car C, and so on. And in the end, we're gonna have a fucking traffic jam just because of one person, ultimately. Quite, yeah. Which means that there's always gonna be one fucker. You know, unless there's some kind of accident or some shit that leads to a traffic jam, you know, this is something different then. Yet, if you map the movements of all the relevant cars and how each impacts the other, you will get a complete account of the traffic jam. It would be pointless to ask, but how do all these movements create the traffic jam? For traffic jam is simply the abstract term we humans decide to use for this particular collection of events. In contrast, anger isn't an abstract term we have decided to use as a shorthand for billions of electric brain signals. Anger is an extremely concrete experience which people were familiar with long before they knew anything about electricity. When I say I'm angry, I'm pointing to a very tangible feeling. If you describe how a chemical reaction in a neuron results in an electric signal and how billions of similar reactions result in billions of additional signals, it is still worthwhile to ask, but how do these billions of events come together to create my concrete feeling of anger? Yes, you know. Ironically, the better we map this process, the harder it becomes to explain conscious feelings. The better we understand the brain, the more redundant the mind seems. If the entire system works by electric signals passing from here to there, why the hell do we also need to feel fear? If a chain of electrochemical reactions leads all the way from the nerve cells in the eye to the movement of leg muscles and whatnot, why add subjective experiences to this chain? What do they do? Countless domino pieces can fall one after the other without any need of subjective experiences. Philosophers have encapsulated the riddle in a trick question. What happens in the mind that doesn't happen in the brain? If nothing happens in the mind except what happens in our massive network of neurons, then why do we need the mind? If something does indeed happen in the mind over and above what happens in the neural network, where the hell does it happen? You know, does it happen in the front part, in the back part, on the sides, on the stem, in the stem? Maybe the mind should join the soul, God, and either in the dustbin of science. After all, no one has ever seen experiences of pain or love through a microscope, and we have a very detailed biochemical explanation of pain and love that leaves no room for subjective experiences. However, there is a crucial difference between mind and soul, as well as between mind and God. Whereas the existence of eternal souls is pure conjecture, I think it's conjecture, the experience of pain is a direct and very tangible reality. When I step on a nail, I can be 100% certain that I feel pain. Yes, but do you have a soul? Who knows? There's nothing that we can measure about that. And I think the whole quote-unquote discussion about feelings leads me to say that I'm very sorry for the sounds. It leads me to say that it is insofar, I think it's the word, I'm not quite sure, I probably have forgotten about it. It's insofar a good question to ask yourself, or a good thing to think about, because it kind of underlines, at least at my point of view, that feelings are just really subjective. Subjective in a way of, for example, okay, somebody died that I loved and this just really breaks me. Somebody else might be like, well, my dog died and this really breaks me. Then a third one's gonna say, well, you know, if I just have a look at it like the dog and the human being, like, you know, why is this person that lost a dog maybe even more sad than the person that lost a human being? And then I can say, well, it is fucking subjective. And people just feel feelings in different ways or because of different reasons in a different strength than other people, because we are all individuals, which is also one of the reasons why saying, you know, it's just that to a person that is really feeling something about something, is really feeling pain about something, is not a good idea, because you don't ultimately know how they're feeling, you know, because you might feel about it as like, I actually don't care about that. But this person, you know, it might just be the world for this person, even though you think it's nothing. And it might be just as severe for them as, I don't know, indeed losing a loved one for you might be. So I don't know, saying like, okay, it's just nothing and it's just this and that and these and those is not a good idea. It's not a good thing, because you don't know how they are seeing it and you don't know how they are feeling it, and how important, and not really in a conscious way, but also in a subconscious way it is. Because, you know, we can say something is not important to us, but in the end, it really is, but subconsciously. Where did I stop? Most modern people have ethical qualms about torture and rape because of the subjective experiences involved. If any scientist wants to argue that subjective experiences are irrelevant, their challenge is to explain why torture or rape are wrong without reference to any subjective experience. Jet engines roar loudly, but the noise doesn't propel the aeroplane forward. Humans don't need carbon dioxide, but each and every breath fills the air with more of the stuff. Similarly, consciousness may be kind of mental pollution produced by the firing of complex neural networks. It doesn't do anything, it is just there. Yes, indeed. I know for our existence it's quite not important, isn't it? If this is true, it implies that all the pain and pleasure experienced by billions of creatures for millions of years is just mental pollution. Which is actually a pretty harsh thing to say, but yeah, kind of maybe is. In the 19th century, scientists described brains and minds as if they were steam engines. Why steam engines? Because that was the leading technology of the day, which powered trains, ships, and factories. So when humans tried to explain life, they assumed it must work according to analogous principles. And it is the exact same fucking shit that we're doing at this point in time, isn't it? If we say, you know, it is a thing out of neural networks and stuff like that, which, you know, heavily related to artificial intelligence and neural networks and all of these things, machine learning. So what about that? You know, is our perception of the brain going to be different in 100 years when we're having the new thing, the new whatever, 5G? Is our brain 5G capable? I don't know, probably. I do, by the way, wonder, because this is something that Elon Musk was also talking about, that the interface of our brain seems to be quite slow in terms of like our ability to the input of it, and also the output seems to be very slow, which, as I'm thinking about it, actually is quite the truth, because reading is fucking slow. Talking is also very slow, which is output and input, unless you don't listen, of course, or you don't speak. I don't one of those things. But it really indeed is fucking slow. And I think our brain would indeed be capable of doing more than that. But, you know, figuring that out, how to do that, is the next step, I would say. For all you know, the year might be 2020 or 2216 or 2216, and you're a bored teenager immersed inside a virtual world game that stimulates the primitive and existing world of the early 21st century. Once you acknowledge the feasibility of this scenario, mathematics leads you to a very scary conclusion. Since there is only one real world, whereas the number of potential virtual worlds is infinite, the probability that you happen to inhabit the sole real world is almost zero. Yeah, I know there's a discussion about, you know, parallel worlds and virtual worlds, and are we in a simulation and stuff like that, even though it is likely, I don't know, and I don't even care, because if I'm in a simulation or not, I don't know, and I'm not that eager to find out by dying, by doing dumb shit, by doing whatever, but it could obviously be the case, but who knows. The Turing test is simply a replication of a mundane test every gay man had to undergo in 1950s Britain. Can you pass for a straight man? What the fuck? Turing knew from personal experience that it didn't matter who you really were, it mattered only what others thought about you. According to Turing, in the future computers would be just like gay men in the 1950s. It won't matter whether computers will actually be conscious or not, it will matter only what people think about it. Well, I'm not sure about that. Similarly, say the skeptics, a male chimpanzee attacking a rival who hurt him weeks earlier isn't really avenging the old insult. He's just reacting to a momentary feeling of anger, and the cause of which is beyond him. When a mother elephant sees a lion threatening her calf, She rushes forward and risks her life not because she remembers that this is her beloved offspring, whom she has been nurturing for months. Rather, she is impelled by some unfathomable sense of hostility towards the lion. And when a dog jumps for joy when his owner comes home, the dog isn't recognizing the man who fed and cuddled him for infancy. He's simply overwhelmed by an unexplained ecstasy. I'm not sure. I really am not. I really indeed am not. I also just don't quite believe in that. Maybe I just don't want to believe in that. Maybe it's just because it's so random. Maybe it is so yeah, this is what it is, and I don't believe in it. It is so cold. I think this just describes it very, very well, actually. It is very cold in terms of they just don't have feelings. We also don't have any feelings, because this is just our subconscious mind that is doing something, and our brain that is doing something. Yeah. When a human mother sees the toddler wandering onto a busy road, she doesn't stop to think about either past or future. Just like the mother elephant, she too just races to save her child. Why not say about her what we say about the elephant, namely that when the mother rushes to save her baby from the oncoming danger, she did it without any self-consciousness. She was merely driven by a momentary urge. So yeah, I think I can't really decide whether he is it is the truth or it is not, which is a little bit fucked up now. But yeah, I am going to end the episode at this point, so I'm going to highlight it so that I know where I've stopped. Talking today is strange. I don't know why. Maybe there's not enough air in my rooms, could be the case. Could really likely be the case. But yeah, anyway, I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success, and also hope that you're going to remind yourself and you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy, and basically means just being a nice person, and then also being remembered as a nice person, which is an incredibly important thing, an incredibly cool thing as well. So yeah, hopefully we're going to see you the next time. I appreciate it, everything, and I'll see you. The question of the day is, what could you do, what could you make, what could you change that is going to make somebody else's life better or really good indeed? What could you do? Please ask yourself this question. Something I'm very interested in, and also looking forward to seeing what you think about it. Yeah, this is what it is. 3 other questions that I have you are, why are you here, what are you trying to change, and what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even the business idea, which is a pretty cool thing, I guess. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I hope that I've been able to just share some things that are kind of interesting. I'm actually not quite sure because very reading heavy episode once again, and I think the next episode is also going to be like that. But yeah, maybe you can enjoy it as an audiobook, kind of. Yeah, anyway, I'm hopefully going to see you the next time. Bye. I wish you the best. And please stay safe and healthy. I just wish you the best from the bottom of my heart. I just appreciate you and the attention and everything. Yes.